The first sign that something was wrong came in the form of a laminated notice slapped onto the door at exactly 6:47 a.m. It was crooked, aggressive, and highlighted in neon yellow like a warning label. Unauthorized animal, violation of HOA Bylaw 14B, remove immediately or face fines. Below it was a smug, looping signature and an HOA seal stamped 3 times for emphasis. Standing inside the doorway, Officer Daniel Reyes stared at the notice, then down at the calm, alert German shepherd seated perfectly at his heel, eyes sharp, posture rigid, unmoving. Titan didn't bark. He didn't flinch. He simply waited. If you've ever dealt with an HOA that overstepped like this, hit like, subscribe, and comment HOA below, or tell us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Titan was not a pet. He was a canine, a certified police service animal with 6 years of active duty experience, trained in narcotics detection, suspect apprehension, and officer protection. And yet, according to the Crescent Ridge Estates HOA, Titan was now considered a nuisance dog. Daniel folded the notice carefully and slid it into his jacket pocket. He'd seen arrogance before, on the streets, in interrogation rooms, in people who thought authority was something you could wear like a costume. But this felt different. This felt personal. Crescent Ridge Estates was pristine to the point of obsession. Lawns trimmed with surgical precision, driveways pressure-washed weekly, mailboxes aligned like soldiers, and presiding over it all was the HOA president, Mr. Bradley Knox, a man in his early 40s who never missed an opportunity to be seen, heard, or feared. He was instantly recognizable, not just for his permanent smug grin, but for his signature outfit, a bright pink blazer, worn regardless of weather, paired with pressed slacks and an expression that said rules applied to everyone, except him. By 9 a.m., Daniel's phone buzzed. "Officer Reyes," a nasal voice said, syrupy with false politeness. "This is President Knox from the HOA. We need to discuss your dog." Daniel said nothing. "There's a strict no-pet policy," Knox continued. "Doesn't matter how well-trained it looks. Rules are rules. I'll be attending the HOA meeting tonight. We can discuss it there." Knox chuckled. "We don't need to waste everyone's time. Remove the animal by sunset, or fines begin. $100 per day." The call ended. That evening, the community clubhouse was packed. Folding chairs scraped the floor as residents whispered, curious. At the front stood Knox, arms spread wide like a politician on a campaign trail, the bright pink blazer practically glowing under fluorescent lights. "Let's maintain order," Knox announced. "We have a violation issue to address." Daniel stood, Titan rising beside him in perfect sync. A murmur rippled through the room. "That dog," Knox said, pointing dramatically, "intimidating presence, against bylaws." "By whom?" Daniel asked. "Several concerned residents," Knox replied, without naming a single one. "And HOA authority gives me the power to act swiftly." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then I'd like to formally inform the board that Titan is a registered police service canine. Federal and state law protect his presence." Knox laughed, out loud, loud enough to echo. "Nice story. You can't just slap a vest on a dog and claim immunity. This is private property." Titan's ears twitched at the tone, but he remained still. A woman in the second row raised her hand. She said, "My brother's a veteran. Isn't that illegal?" Knox waved her off. "Please, I've read the bylaws. I wrote half of them." Daniel reached into his folder, but stopped. "Mr. Knox," he said calmly, "before this goes further, are you formally enforcing this ban?" Knox straightened, chest puffed. "Absolutely, effective immediately." The room fell silent. Daniel closed the folder again. "Then I'll comply with procedure." He sat down. Knox smirked, convinced he'd won. What he didn't realize, what no one in that room realized, was that by saying those words, by enforcing that ban, he had just stepped into a legal minefield he didn't even know existed. And Titan? Titan simply waited.
The next morning, Crescent Ridge Estates woke up to sirens. Not the distant, forgettable kind that blended into city noise, but the sharp, deliberate sound of police vehicles rolling slowly down the immaculate streets. Squad cars parked with precision along the curb outside Daniel Reyes's townhouse. 2 marked units, 1 unmarked SUV. Neighbors peeked through blinds, phones already raised, recording. And at Daniel's side, Titan stood tall, wearing his official K9 vest, black, bold lettering stitched cleanly across it. Police K9, service animal. Daniel hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't argued further. He'd simply followed procedure. By 8:12 a.m., a legal complaint had been filed. By 8:30, the department's legal liaison had contacted the HOA's management company. By 9 o'clock, Crescent Ridge Estates was officially on notice for violating federal disability and service animal protections, interfering with law enforcement operations, and discriminatory enforcement of bylaws. The knock on the HOA office door came shortly after. Bradley Knox was mid-sentence, rehearsing a speech in the mirror. The bright pink blazer was perfectly pressed, the pocket square aligned just right. He practiced the smile, the one that made people uncomfortable. When he opened the door, the smile vanished. 2 uniformed officers stood there, calm, professional. Behind them was a woman in a navy suit holding a legal folder thick enough to bend. "Mr. Knox," she said, "I'm with the city's legal compliance office. We need to speak." Minutes later, the emergency HOA meeting was called. The same clubhouse, the same chairs, but the energy was different. Knox stood at the front again, but this time he wasn't spreading his arms, he was gripping the podium. His pink blazer, once a symbol of confidence, now looked almost ridiculous under the weight of the moment. Daniel sat quietly near the aisle, Titan positioned beside him, unmoving. The room couldn't stop glancing at the dog, how disciplined he was, how focused, how clearly not a pet. The woman in the navy suit addressed the room. The HOA president issued a formal ban against a federally protected police service animal, she said plainly. That action exposed this association to substantial legal liability. A murmur spread. She continued, "This includes fines, mandatory training, and potential removal of leadership." Knox scoffed weakly. "This is being blown out of proportion." One of the officers spoke up. "Titan has assisted in over 80 felony arrests. He's certified annually. Your notice interfered with active duty readiness." A resident near the back stood. "So you fined a police dog?" Laughter broke out. Not polite laughter, the kind Knox couldn't control. His face flushed. "I was enforcing rules," he snapped. "No one is above them." Daniel finally stood. Rules don't override the law, and authority doesn't mean immunity. He opened the folder he'd carried all along and handed copies to the board. Documentation, certifications, federal statutes highlighted. Clear, unarguable. The board members avoided Knox's eyes. One cleared his throat. "Bradley, did you verify any of this before issuing the ban?" Knox hesitated, just the fraction too long. "No," he admitted. That was it. The vote was swift. Effective immediately, Bradley Knox was suspended pending removal, his enforcement powers revoked, all fines issued under his authority frozen. The pink blazer sagged as if it finally realized it couldn't carry him anymore. As the meeting adjourned, residents approached Daniel, some apologetic, others embarrassed. Titan accepted quiet praise with stoic dignity. Outside, Knox stood alone near the clubhouse steps, phone pressed to his ear, voice tight. No one listened anymore. Daniel paused briefly as he passed. This could have been avoided. All you had to do was ask. Knox didn't respond. Weeks later, Crescent Ridge Estates had new leadership, revised bylaws, and mandatory legal training posted on every bulletin board. The story traveled fast. Online, local news, HOA forums. A man on a power trip had tried to ban a service animal.
and discovered the difference between imagined authority and real consequence. Titan continued his duties, calm, professional, untouchable. If this story made you shake your head or smile at the karma, like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from and what time it is. And tell us, have you ever seen power abused like this?